welcome to my first ever sketchbook tour. So this sketchbook isn't done yet, but it's pretty close. I've gotten to the last page, I just haven't quite filled all the pages yet. Very exciting because it took a while. I took a break from sketching in this, but you'll see that there's a definite improvement, and I'll show you the difference. There are some drawings in here that are not very good and they're embarrassing, but you know, that's part of the process of getting better. So let's get into it. So this was the first page. That was my middle school. We were doing something for our yearbook design thing. Obviously wasn't the one I turned in, but here's the first page. And this is a charcoal paper book, but a lot of the drawings in here aren't charcoal, but everything on this page is charcoal. And you can see the lips, you know, I was doing okay with those, and there's a horse, because I'm obsessed with horses. You'll see that on my website. I'm the horse artist of the group. More lips. I don't know why I didn't finish this one. It actually looks pretty good. A mistake that I always made when I was younger is if I didn't like the drawing, I would cross it out instead of figuring out why I didn't like it. This one, it's easy to fix. You just erase a bit of it and reshade it, but instead I was crossing it out, and that's just a mental mistake because there's no wrong way to do art, you know. Yeah, it's not exactly how I wanted it, but I could have at least finished it, but I'm kind of keeping them that way to learn. So this was actually the first page I did in charcoal. I don't know why I skipped the first couple pages. Oh, focus, okay. I was actually really proud of this nose when I first did it, but I realized that it's kind of too circular. It's just like the proportions are too perfect, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't look natural. And this girl, I didn't really know how to do hair at the time or the smile lines and stuff, so she looks really old compared to the rest of her, like just this area. Like if you cover that up, she looks young. If you put that back, she looks old. And just some shading. Really proud of these lips. Those turned out really well. And then there's a random eye. Okay, so on the next page, if I can flip the page, this was one of my first ever reference drawings, and this is of Cutie, and yes, her eyes are supposed to be cross-eyed here. It's a picture of her with her eyes crossed. She's one of my favorite YouTubers. I really like this drawing. Yeah. Okay, I was trying to do like a hair study here because, like I said before, I was having a lot of trouble with hair. And this hair actually doesn't look that bad, but her face is weird. It looks kind of like Shailene Woodley. I don't know why, but her eyes are like way too big. Her nose is way too small, but you know, that's what happens when you're practicing and you need to get better at one thing. Kind of lose focus on other stuff. Okay, so here's my first like actual filled in page. Only one thing on this page is old, and that's this one, and I did kind of draw this again with just a mechanical pencil. For this one, there's definitely a difference. I don't know if it's better or worse. Something about this just kind of looks off to me. And then mouth again. I didn't shade the bottom lip. Didn't know why. My brother wanted me to draw a deer, so I drew a deer, and then working on a profile there, and it's the same girl here and here. Actually, I'm really proud of this because I wasn't using a reference for her, and I just like the pose and her face. She just looks really nice. I don't know. And then another eye. 'Cause my brothers make fun of me all the time for drawing random eyes on stuff. Okay, so this is actually my first ever reference, and for some reason she looks kind of like Bella Hadid, which the girl that I was using didn't look like her, but I did make some changes. I made her hair and her lips darker just to add some contrast, and this is a charcoal portrait. I'm really proud of how this turned out, and I think the only reason I would ever sell this is if I had made prints of it, because I'm in love with the way it turned out. Even if it's not as good as some of the drawings I do now, it showed my improvement. Trying to turn the page is always a struggle. Okay, this was my brother's drawing. Yay, Cameron. His dragon. Okay, so this was in oil pastels, which I don't know why I was using oil pastels in a charcoal book, but this was one of our first logos for the Theartgivers, and as you can see, it's not as good as the one that we have now. I never actually used this because I realized it wasn't the way I wanted it to look, but it's still, I like it still. We might still end up using that. Okay, so this whole page is taken up by a dragon. Not done with it yet, obviously, and I need to add wings. The head is like really small compared to the rest of the body, so I'm going to make some changes to it, just so that the proportions are more normal. And then this is going to be a horse page. There's a unicorn that for some reason I started to erase. I don't know why. It's actually looking really good. And then this, trying to figure out how to do a horse body without reference, definitely didn't work out, but you know, I'm learning. This is actually one of my favorite pages. I started out with drawing this during class, during math class during last school year, and then I didn't fill the rest of the page. And I thought, what would go better with unicorns than fairies? So I started out with drawing this one, and I was trying to learn how to shade in colors anyway, so I thought this was a good way to learn. So there's the first one, obviously not my best. Then I went to this one. I feel like she looks a lot better. Definitely a lot better. And then a definite improvement with this one. And then you go all the way up here. And this was my first boy fairy. And my brothers say it still looks like a girl, but I think he looks pretty good. You know, he's buff. Working on guy anatomy is hard. And then the last fairy is another guy, and I'm even happier with the way he turned out because he's not as feminine looking. I mean, I think it looks like a guy, but it's definitely a more feminine looking guy, and then that's actually like a guy. Okay, this next page is again one of my favorites because it's more recent. The last page and this page were ones I did this summer. The whole pages were ones I did this summer. This was a reference picture because I love cats. Who doesn't love cats, really? This is also reference. It doesn't look exactly like the model that I was using, but I'm actually really pleased. Everything is basically the same except for her nose, and that's why I said work on your noses. I don't know why there's a random face there. I think I was trying to work on emotions, which expressions over here. You know, sad, kind of anxious, angry, happy, just kind of a confident smirk, happy but kind of tense, I guess. My dad says she looks like she's about ready to take a poop, or in the process of it, and then a random Tom Cruise. Okay, I'm gonna flip it over. So I was in the car and I read that it's best to use like real life sources. So this was Cameron in the seat in front of me in the car when we were going on a road trip. That's my hand. Definitely not an amazing hand, but better than I normally do. I don't know what happened with her face. Not very good. It's me trying to draw anime. I have so much respect for people who can. Obviously, I can't. And then I really like the way she looks. I don't know why. Just, I guess the coat actually looks good, and she's just kind of loose, but it looks good. And then probably my favorite eye that I've drawn so far. Just looks very realistic, and I'm happy with it. And then unfinished face, unfinished lips, and then lips there. And I marked, that's a weird hand. Cameron in the seat in front of me, and he had no idea I was drawing that until I told him. Okay, these are some OCs. The rest of it are basically OCs. That's Julia. I'm actually writing a story about most of the OCs that are here. They're all part of the same story. So this is Julia, and this is Corey. and I'm not done with her yet, obviously, 'cause she only has one leg. And I feel like the leg is way too short for her body. I don't know if that's just me. Comment down below if you think that it is or isn't. I don't know. It just doesn't seem right. Um, Next page was my first attempt at drawing another one of my OCs in color. Name's Aaron, and this is Cameron's thing, and he wrote down here, question, why is her face um, blackish yellow with a bunch of lines on her face and a weird line across her face? He has really bad handwriting, I'm sorry. And then answer, I think she has been tortured underground many times with many poisons and many claws for a long time. And that actually makes sense for the way she looks. What really happened here is I started shading her in black and white, and then I realized that I wanted to do color, so I went a little bit too crazy with the yellow, and then I kind of was like, abandoned mission, just abort, 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 because it just wasn't looking the way I wanted it to. Okay, next page, my second attempt at drawing Erin in color, and again, I started shading it in black and white, and then I went a bit too crazy with the yellow, and then I made her eyes a bit too big so that when I made them purple, she just looked evil instead of a little bit, sarcastic the way I wanted her to, and then her hand. Her hand is so small. I don't know. And this was very recently. And then the next page, okay, so more eyes. Again, I really like that one. That's supposed to be Korean and then Japanese. I know some people will say that's racist, but I actually used reference pictures, and I just wanted to work on drawing different races. And that's why I drew her. This is Cress, and it probably should have, her nickname probably should have been Crass, but I didn't like that because her full name is Crescenda. Really like the way her anatomy turned out, except for that hand. Again, it's way too small. And her hair, I really like her hair. And then this is the first color drawing of Erin that I've actually liked. You can see it's still the same girl. She's got the purple eyes, and I decided to make a braid instead of just long hair. And then this is another one of my OCs, Sarah. It doesn't really look like her right there because she's looking down. It doesn't look the way I wanted it to, but she still looks pretty good in my opinion. This was my first attempt at drawing Julia in color. You can see there's a bit of a resemblance, but again, just the shading is so hard for me in color. And then I drew this one first, and it's showing two sides of a character. This is how she starts out in the book, and then later on she turns into this as she goes on an adventure. And then this was like supposed to be the full fairy effect, and I need to finish her wings, but they're kind of hard, so I need to finish that. But I like the way that's looking. It definitely looks like her, and I'm glad that I can draw two things and they look the same. Okay, so here's Sarah again. I'm drawing so many OCs now, but this is in color, one of my first actually good color drawings that I've done in a while. And then I was trying to draw Erin again, and her anatomy is just wrong, so I'm probably gonna fix that. Her face, I like her face. She looks like her still. But just the body positioning, and like she's facing one way and then her legs are facing another way. It's just not the way I want it to look, so I'm gonna fix that. Okay, so here's a page of a lot of the OCs, and this was another earlier drawing of Erin where I had her scar covering her whole eye instead of just her cheek. And then this is Tori. That's the girl I drew earlier with like the sun hat. You can see it's the same girl. And then here's Cress again, only with longer hair, because I kind of changed the way she was looking a little bit. But again, I'm very happy with the way she's looking there. And then Julia. And I made her eyes a bit too big in this, but it still looks like her, so I'm happy. Okay, here's Erin, a full page of her. You can tell she's one of my favorite OCs. But this was, again, one of the earlier drawings. This is when I first decided that her scar would take up only her cheek because it was a burn mark, and then her braid is a lot shorter, and I messed up bad right here. It looks like she's had breast implants. I know. Everything else is good except for her nose. Like, her nose is way too small. But I love the way her arms look. They're very muscular, and that's how I wanted them to look. And everything else, the shading-wise, is good except for that. Oh my gosh. Even my grandma commented when she saw this. She's like, "You drew her with pretty big boobs, didn't you?" And, you know, that's an 89-year-old lady. Okay, so these were all from reference. This one's the most like the actual picture. If I were selling this, I'd probably get in trouble for copyright because it, not to brag, but it kind of actually looks like the picture, pretty much. The only problem is that her neck is kind of more collapsed. She's not standing up as tall. She's got more of a roll in her back. But that's really the only difference. The rest of it looks pretty much like the picture. This one, I focused less on her face, and you can probably tell that, and more on her hair, which I'm actually really happy with the way her hair turned out. And with her anatomy, the way she's positioned, I focused more on that. And then her, I really took a lot of creativity to her. I made her eyebrows thicker, I made her hair completely different, and I made her looking off to the side instead of directly at the camera like she was in the actual picture. So I'm gonna continue filling this page, but these are all from reference, and I found models online. Okay, so this page, again, I was kind of experimenting, so I took a black, my darkest graphite pencil, and just scribbled, and then took white out. It was like a whiteout pen, and I decided I wanted to draw, and I did the same thing there. I just kind of was having fun, and then drew a picture of my doggy. His name's Finn. That was a picture of him sleeping, and I'm in love with him. I love him. Okay, these are more reference, and I got these out of a pink catalog that we got in the mail for free. This was the one that was on the cover, and this was later on, and it didn't look quite as good as I wanted it to. It looks like she's kind of got a goatee, so I wrote, "That's a girl." I don't know why. Just the way it is, and then, that's the way her mouth was supposed to look, and I couldn't really get it there because it was so small, so I just drew it here to practice lip shapes, and that's it. So a lot of the pages aren't quite as full as I wanted it to be before I made this video, but I've had this for such a long time, and the only reason it hasn't been filled, a lot of the filling has come in the last, 2 weeks, and that's because I've been drawing a lot lately, and you can see there's a major improvement, and I haven't been taking lessons, I haven't been taking art classes, or even really watching tutorials on YouTube. I've just been practicing and learning by myself what it's supposed to look like. And like I said before, this is charcoal paper, and most of it I didn't actually use charcoal for, so that's kind of a waste of money because my parents bought this for me with a set of charcoals that are really nice. I'll link the brand, I can't remember which one it is, in the description box. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. If you want more videos like this one, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And remember that one girl, Corey, I want to know if you think her leg looked too short, so make sure to tell me down below because I feel like it does. And I'll be coming back with another video soon. Thank you.